All right, we went 4-1 on our 5 premium sports picks on Pt.2 yesterday. That's going to improve our record to 3-0 in our last 3 board member tier package picks on that website. Now, the link for today's board member tier package pick is in the description section below. $1,000 bettors are up over $2,700 during that span. Now, if you're not signed up for that package, or, well, if you have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm going to explain a little bit more about that in just a moment. But before we go ahead and move on, just want to take a quick time out and welcome you to the video. My name is Brock Page, and I do sports picks for free right here on YouTube. I also sell my personal bets on BrockPage.com, and I have packages on that website beginning at just $1.99. Now, the purpose of these YouTube videos here is to provide free informational sports betting content. It's also designed to generate interest in signing up for a membership on my website. Now, you may be wondering what the difference is between what I do here on YouTube and what I do on my webpage. Well, what I do here on YouTube is I'll handicap the entire slate of games in any given sport side in total, or at least most of the games. And what I do on my website is, well, I actually share with you which one of these free YouTube picks on my channel that I'm actually betting on personally. So with that, let's go ahead and dive into our part 2 video here today. We are going to start with Evansville taking on Valparaiso. That's going to be an 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Valpo's minus 8.5 with the total at 125. Now, the Beacons of Valparaiso, they've actually covered the point spread in 4 out of their last 5 ball games. They've also done a real nice job offensively at home. Valpo scoring over 74 points a game in front of their home fans. Ben Crick is scoring over 14.5 points per contest, along with 4 rebounds. Meanwhile, Kobe King is scoring over 14 points a game himself, along with 4 boards. Now, Valpo is also doing a real nice job connecting on field goals this season. They're taking on an Evansville team who's been pretty bad on the road. They actually lost 9 of 11 when traveling, and they're currently on a 4-game losing streak. Now, in addition to that, the Purple Aces are one of the worst offensive teams in the nation. They're currently scoring just 56 points a game when they travel. And they're also knocking down only 37% of their field goals in that very same category. We're looking at a team who struggles to shoot the basketball away from home. Now, total-wise, 7 out of these teams' last 10 head-to-head meetings fell under the posted number. Evansville also saw unders recently against the likes of Drake, Indiana State, and Bradley. Meanwhile, Valpo, on the other side, they held the Aces to just 65 points a game in their last 10 head-to-head meetings as well. I'm going to lean toward Valparaiso minus 8.5 and the under 125. Next matchup, it is going to be Penn State versus Maryland, 7 p.m. Eastern tip-off. Maryland's minus 2.5 with the total at 129. Now, the Terps are coming fresh off a 16-point win over Nebraska, where they actually scored 90 total points. Now, when it comes to defensive play in this one, on the other end of the court, Maryland's allowing only 68 points a game in front of their home fans. Now, scoring-wise, Eric Ayala is averaging over 14.5 points per contest, along with 4 rebounds and a couple assists. Meanwhile, Fats Russell is scoring 14 points a game himself, along with 4 rebounds and 3 assists as well. When it comes to shooting from the stripe in this one, the Terrapins are making 80% of their free throws at home. They're actually in the top 10 in the nation in home offensive free throw percentage. Now, they're taking on a Penn State team who lost 7 of 8 on the road this year. They scored only 59 points a game in those contests. And equally as bad, the Nittany Lions shot just 39% from the field in their road games. Now, one more thing to add here about the Nittany Lions when it comes to defensive play. Penn State is letting their opponents make nearly 41% of their three-pointers against them when they travel. Really having a difficult time guarding the 3-ball away from home. Now, total-wise, Penn State saw 4 out of their last 5 fall under the line. They're also 70% to the under in their last 10. Meanwhile, Maryland's 10-5 to the under at the Xfinity Center this season. I'm going to lean toward Maryland minus 2.5 and the under 129. Next matchup, it is going to be Loyola Chicago versus Illinois State, 8 o'clock Eastern start time. Loyola's -9, totals 137.5. But as good as the Ramblers have been this year, they did fail to cover in 8 out of their last 10 outings. They're also covering in only 33% of their road games. Now, when it comes to offensive production, the Ramblers are scoring only 66 points a game when traveling. They're taking on an Illinois State team who covered the point spread in their last 2 straight, and they've also gone 10-5 straight up in front of their home fans. Antonio Reeves is scoring over 20 points a game, along with 3 rebounds and nearly 40% shooting from three-land. Meanwhile, Josiah Strong, he's making nearly 43% of his three-pointers. He's also averaging 11 points a game. And speaking of scoring in this one, the Redbirds are averaging 79 points a game in front of their home fans. When it comes to the total in this ball game here, Illinois State saw overs recently with Valpo, Southern Illinois, and this very Loyola team. Meanwhile, the Ramblers saw their last 3 straight get over the line themselves, 5-2 to the over in their last 7. I'm going to lean toward Illinois State +9 and the over 137.5. Next contest, it is going to be UTEP versus Middle Tennessee State. And that's going to be a 7 o'clock Eastern start time. Middle Tennessee's -5.5 with the total at 139. Now, the Blue Raiders have been unbeatable at home this year. They're 12-0 straight up in front of their home fans. And they're covering the point spread in 80% of those contests. Now, Middle Tennessee, they're also playing some of the toughest defense at home in the country. They're allowing only 58 points a game at home. They're also in the top 15 in defensive three-point percentage on their home court. Now, when it comes to the scoring in this one, Josh Jefferson's averaging over 15 points a game, along with 3 rebounds. Meanwhile, Donovan Williams scoring over 10.5 points a game himself, along with 4 rebounds and a couple assists. They're taking on a UTEP squad who lost 2 out of their last 4, and they were held to just 58 points against North Texas during that stretch. Now, the Miners have also struggled offensively on the road. They're averaging only 66 points a game when traveling, and they're also having a tough time grabbing offensive boards at home. They're having a tough time grabbing offensive boards on the road. Sorry, brain fart. Anyway, total-wise, 5 out of UTEP's last 7 contests got over the posted number. Meanwhile, Middle Tennessee went 7-2 to the over in their last 9. I'm going to lean toward Middle Tennessee State -5.5 and the over 139. Next ball game, it is going to be West Virginia versus TCU, 8 o'clock Eastern tip-off. TCU's -3.5 with the total at 131. Now, the Horned Frogs won 9 out of 13 at home, and they're playing exceptional defense in front of their home crowd. As a matter of fact, TCU's allowing only 63 points per contest on their home court, and they're also in the top 15 in the country in defensive rebounds. Mike Miles is scoring over 14.5 points a game, along with 3 rebounds and 4 assists. Meanwhile, Damian Ball is scoring over 10.5 points per contest himself, along with 4 boards and 4 assists. They're taking on a struggling West Virginia team who's gotten just 1 win since January 11th. As a matter of fact, the Mountaineers are just 1-7 straight up on the road this year. They shot only 39% from the field in their travels. Now, defensively, they've certainly allowed way too many points on the road this year. They're giving up 77 points a game away from home. They also struggle to get defensive boards when traveling. Now, when it comes to the total in this one, West Virginia's seen their fair share of overs. These guys are 7-1 to the over on the road this year, 60% to the over in their last 10 meetings with TCU. Meanwhile, the Horned Frogs saw 6 out of their last 8 contests get over the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward TCU -3.5 and the over 131. Next ball game, it is going to be Arizona State versus UCLA, and that's going to be a 9 o'clock Eastern start time. UCLA's minus 13.5 with the total at 132. Now, the Bruins have actually had some struggles within the past couple of weeks or so. They've been really good collectively overall for the season, but within the past handful of weeks, we have seen them be human. They actually lost 3 out of their last 6. And that includes a loss to this very Arizona State team where they allowed 87 total points. And speaking of giving up points, the Bruins have allowed 81 points per contest in their last 10 meetings with Arizona State. Now, injury-wise, UCLA may have to go to work here without their leading scorer, Johnny Juzang. The guard is currently questionable with a hip injury. They're taking on an Arizona State team who's on a 3-game winning streak themselves. They also went 8-2 against the spread in their last 10. This is a team who's been doing very well covering that number. And I'll tell you what, speaking of covering the point spread, the Sun Devils covered in 8 out of their last 10 meetings with UCLA. So if you're into historical trends, you certainly want to think about that one there. Now, scoring-wise, DJ Horn's averaging 12.5 points per contest, along with 3 rebounds and 97% shooting from the foul line. Meanwhile, Kamani Lawrence scores over 10.5 points a game himself, along with 6 rebounds. Now, when it comes to defensive play in this one, the Sun Devils are holding their competition to just 40% shooting from the field on the road. And speaking of road games, Arizona State's covering in 67% of their contests away from home. Now, total-wise, 6 out of the Sun Devils' last 9 road games fell under the posted number. As a matter of fact, these guys are 68% to the under for the entire season. Meanwhile, UCLA, on the other side of things, they saw 6 out of their last 10 fall under the line themselves. I'm going to lean toward Arizona State plus 13.5 and the under 132. Next contest, it is going to be Baylor versus Oklahoma State, and that's going to be a 9 o'clock Eastern start time. Baylor is minus 5 with a total at 138.5. But despite being favored by a couple of buckets on the road here, Baylor failed to cover in 5 out of their last 7 ball games, and they're allowing over 70 points a game on the road this year. They also may have to go to work here once again without L.J. Cryer. The scoring machine is currently questionable with a foot injury. Now they're taking on an Oklahoma State team who won 3 out of their last 5 themselves, and they actually had victories over the likes of Kansas State, West Virginia, and TCU during that span. Now, the Cowboys are actually playing some really good defense at home this year. They're giving up only 65 points a game in front of their home fans. And in addition to that, they're actually limiting their competition to just 39% shooting from the field in that very same category. Now, when it comes to offensive production in this one, on the other end of the court, Avery Anderson's averaging over 11.5 points a game, along with 3 rebounds and a couple assists. Meanwhile, Bryce Thompson scoring double-digit points a game himself, along with 2 rebounds as well. Now, total-wise, Oklahoma State went 6-2 to the over in their last 8 ball games. The Cowboys are also 60% to the over in their last 10 meetings with their opponents here today, Baylor. Meanwhile, the Bears, on the other side of things, they saw 6 out of their last 9 road games get over the line themselves. I'm going to go ahead and lean toward Oklahoma State plus 5 and the over 138.5. With that, guys, we're going to jump into our next and final matchup for Part 2. It is going to be New Mexico State versus Seattle, and that's going to be a 10 o'clock Eastern start time. New Mexico State's minus 2 on the road with the total at 143.5. But despite being favored by a basket on the road here, New Mexico State failed to cover in 3 out of their last 4 ball games. As a matter of fact, they failed to cover against the likes of Dixie State and Utah Valley. Now, when it comes to shooting the 3 ball, the Aggies are making only 32% of their shots from beyond the arc this year. They're taking on a Seattle team who's been awesome at the Red Hawk Center this year. These guys are actually 16-1 straight up in front of their home crowd. And in addition to that, they played some incredible defense in the process. Seattle's actually allowing only 62 points a game at home, and they're limiting their competition to just 38% shooting from the field. Now, scoring-wise, Darian Trammell is averaging 16 points a game, along with 3 boards and 5 assists. Meanwhile, Cameron Tyson scoring over 15.5 points per contest himself, along with 5.5 rebounds. Now, the Red Hawks are currently in the top 15 in the nation in shooting from the stripe. And when it comes to covering the point spread in this one, they're actually covering the number in over 73% of their home games. Now, total-wise, when it comes to the number in this one, Seattle's 12-3 to the under in their last 15 at home. Meanwhile, New Mexico State went 60% to the under in their last 10 themselves. I'm going to go ahead and lean towards Seattle +2 and the under 143.5. And with that, guys, we're going to jump into, well, no, we're not going to jump into anything. That's it. That's the end of the show. But guys, before we wrap it up here, just got to quickly remind you about my website, Pt.2. And if you guys end up getting a membership here today on that webpage, you're going to get billed the day you sign up and then the first of every month following that. I always tell folks in every single video, the earlier in the month you sign up, the better. And guys, if you want to get access to every single pick that I give out on that website, you're going to want to think about signing up for my board member tier package. Board members get access to the board member tier pick itself, and they also get access to every single package that I offer on that website. It's an all-inclusive membership. But most importantly, guys, got to thank you for joining me right here on YouTube. Really hope you enjoyed all this great free content, all this great free information. And with that said, guys, happy Monday to you. Best of luck to you. And I look forward to seeing you later on today on my website at brockpage.com.